All right, everyone. I know you got a lot out of that session. I certainly did. I knew about Vivistem. I knew how it worked in a general sense, but I certainly didn't have that level of detail on who it could benefit, why, and how. So I hope you got something out of that session. And if you're encouraged to do that, uh, get in touch with Dr. Kaylin. But if you're not in Kentucky, please do go to the Vivistem website, put it in the locator, and you will find when I was exploring that myself, there's one in every state, I believe, so you can get access to it. All right. I know it's 1 o'clock, at least here in Eastern Standard Time, and we are coming up for our next speaker. So please do join us for Bridget Noble. Her story is remarkable. I told you at the beginning of our day today, we were going to bookend our conversation with two I mean, inspiring really just doesn't quite do it justice, but their encouragement, that commitment, that dedication, and really the love, quite frankly, the love that comes through in both of these conversations is phenomenal. And so I want you to welcome Bridget. I'm going to take just a few minutes and give you some background on Bridget, and then she's got some slides to share. So we'll turn that over to her in just a minute. I personally have some immense respect for Bridget, not only for being with us at such an early hour, because she's coming to us from Brisbane, Australia, which is, I think, 3 o'clock in the morning. But once you get to know Bridget and hear her story, you're also going to realize that she's got remarkable fortitude and perseverance, as well as this extraordinary ability to connect and inspire others. Bridget has navigated a really profound life transformation in so many ways. And the moment when the person you love most becomes the person you also have to help save. This is the transformation that she went through. Her husband experienced a stroke and developed aphasia, and Bridget stepped into a role she never really asked for, yet one that honestly I think has turned her life into something that she could not have imagined for the better. And she's not only improved her life, but she says that it's improved her marriage, and she's going to walk us through why that is. I, I, I think understanding the Japanese philosophy of kintsugi really helps to understand the profound transformation that Bridget and John's marriage and their life overall went through after John's stroke. If you don't know about kintsugi, it's the centuries old art of repairing broken pottery with gold or silver lacquer. And in this tradition, the cracks in the pottery, they're not hidden or they're not disguised. Instead, they're illuminated and they're covered with that gold or silver lacquer and put back together. And the belief is that the piece is more beautiful and resilient for having been broken, as its history is now part of its unique strength. And I think each and every one of us knows what that means. As we go through life, we get better. And while Bridget's life was shattered by this medical crisis with John, she chose not to just manage the logistics of the recovery, but like kintsugi artists, she became the architect of a new life, gilding the scars of the stroke and aphasia with a partnership-based approach to healing. She prioritized the human connection as much as the neurological one, which is going to come through strong in her story, proving that a marriage and a life can be made stronger at the very places where they were once broken. She's here to share the invisible side of stroke recovery, the reality of maintaining a marriage when the rules of communication have completely changed, and the vital importance of a caregiver knowing their own worth in the healing process, which is extremely important. She's got some great details on this. So Bridget, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us here so early. It really took a lot of effort for you to join us, and it's much appreciated by me and our audience.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's delightful to be with you. It is early here, and yes, I'm looking forward to today. Just heard the end of the last speaker, which was absolutely fantastic. So well done you for putting on such a wonderful seminar.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you very much. So you've got some slides, and I want to make sure we get through them because they're chock full of so many nuggets in so many ways. We've had a lot of questions, just so you know, coming into our conference today about aphasia. Well, yesterday and today, both, right? Because it's not just stroke related, it can be brain injury related as well. And so I know that you've got an active audience here. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of questions. So I'm going to turn it over to you now so we have time to get to those questions at the end.
Thank you. So yes, healing hearts and brains. This is my wife, the experience that I'm looking forward to share with you today. So the Nobles, John, my star and champion, and me, Bridget, his carer extraordinaire. Best mates, that's what we've been for 55 years of the ups and downs of marriage and independent business ownerships. Worked together all those years and kept a relationship going. No, it wasn't easy. We had weathered many storms. And this was the really big one. A wake-up stroke. 3:15 a.m. on the 25th of February 2021, 5 years ago. We were in hospital by 4, but he fell off the bed. I heard this thump. I allowed him to get sort of semi-okay, asked him to get back onto the bed, and then started asking him questions, and it was really odd. So I rang our OOO here in Australia, and we were in hospital by the 4 a.m. We had CT scans. This is his. It looked a bit scary. It was a left ischemic stroke, and we heard the word big. Clot retrieval attempt was done. He was transferred to another hospital, and unfortunately, it was a plaque rupture, so there was no go. Then he was transferred back to the previous hospital, and that's where we ended up being for our rehabilitation for the next 2 months. Every stroke is unique, not one size fits all. Both of us were bewildered, chaotic, and fragile. Lucky us, from day one, my survivor had an attitude of acceptance. Books were our go-to. No one was game to tell us anything about our future. Simply, I looked at the book. I ordered 15 books in the first week, and this particular one, Stronger After Stroke, became our roadmap to recovery. And every day I would take this, show Johnny, and say, this is where we're going, mate. Stronger after stroke. He had aphasia from the stroke and lost all his language. Stronger together, we stuck together like glue. 55 years, we knew one another very well. We'd been through some tough stuff, and this was the next one. This is Johnny in hospital right at the beginning. And in the first days, he had no movement in his right arm at all. It was flaccid, absolutely nothing. So they put it in a sling. And when they first started to work the left arm, wonderfully, the brain mirrored the right arm, and his right arm started to lift with the sling. So they whipped it off and started to work that, and we've never looked back since. Lots of intensive rehab. So important to work hard in recovery from stroke. It brings amazing results. It's tough. Left hemisphere strokes are very common. We had changes to all this list of communication: speaking, reading, writing, listening, understanding, reasoning, awareness, cognition, sensory loss, numbers. We lost all numbers. Time awareness, clocks, mobile phone, self-identity, absolutely all of it was affected. In those first few weeks, we knew nothing about anything. We lost our identities. One day we were someone, and boom, next day, who were we? No voice. The only word John had was yes, and a big smile. 3 weeks later came, I don't know, which meant he really didn't know. I had to come to terms with him not knowing anything about 79 years of his life. His life had vanished, and we had to relearn everything. Who am I? Who are we? We no longer see or feel who we were. What is going to happen to us? What does survival look like? How will life go on? Aphasia. We were told we had it. Anyone heard of it? What was it? A language disorder. 40 to 60% have aphasia after a stroke. You have to learn new skills and fast. And we just took the bits that worked and kept going. In those first 2 months in hospital, first we had to hope he or we would survive. 40% of stroke survivors have another. How will we get through this? How can I find out what will happen to him, to us? Will he speak again? Will I hear his voice again? How do we live like this with no communication about anything? Ideational apraxia he had on top of the aphasia, parietal and temporal lobe injury. You may not believe this. As John said, he had a complete blank about the meaning of almost everything from his first day. 79 years had gone. What is the meaning of a word? That was ideational apraxia. I had to introduce things slowly and patiently until he got it. A nurse. You could say a nurse, but who was a nurse? What did they do? Who were they? And you had to explain absolutely everything. A nurse button. Where is it? Can I press it and engage it? What does it do? A toilet. What was that for? Can I use it? A mobile phone. What is it? What does it do? And so on. And then he can't tell you because he has no speech. No training for aphasia in hospitals yet. Early days for recognition of neuroplasticity in the way it should be yet. As a patient, hard to have the information, but not find or be offered it for treatment. DIY, do it yourself, or lose the hope and opportunity to recover as best as possible. We developed John's lifeline to communicate with anyone about anything in hospital. I went in and made all these cards and laminated them and put them in that great big pencil case. It has ribbons on it because his dexterity or mobility in his right arm was not very good at all. Even though the right arm was functioning, he had sensory loss and it was very challenging. But we made these cards. Stronger after stroke, from ward to outside, fresh air, shared times, acceptance, positivity, and humor. That was huge for us. Fatigue. We had to learn that fatigue is real. Neural connections used to be superhighways and now absolute chaos. Confused, wasting time and fuel and energy, running out of fuel led to huge fatigue. That's what it was like. He used to have the superhighways and now he was going along little country lanes, not knowing where they went, what was happening. All the connections had broken. And that's what happens. You run out of fuel, and you have to have enormous respect for people who have brain injuries of any sort. They run out of fuel very quickly. They look fine, but inside there's a lot of energy lost. Horizontal therapy, those were the words we learned from Stronger After Stroke book. Don't leave them in a chair. Get them back into bed, even if it's inconvenient for you. Give their brains chance to sleep, even if it's only 20 minutes. Refreshment will happen for their healing. John, we made an absolute rule that he would go to bed in the afternoon, free from any kind of stimulation, and sleep. For 2 years, he did this 1.5 to 2 hours every day. It was so important. The global statistics currently is 1 in 4 over 25 will have a stroke in their lifetime. Almost 2/3 of those are under the age of 70. Of those, 40 to 60% will have some form of aphasia, language challenges. Most common is left brain stroke. It affects language. 85% of strokes are ischemic blockages, and 15% are bleed stroke, hemorrhagics. 80% of strokes are preventable. That's a very big thing to realize. Learn the fast signs of stroke. F, face drooped. Arms can't be raised, or if they do, they fall back again. Speech slurred or confused. Time is absolutely critical. Time is brain. Every minute, 2 million brain cells die during stroke. And you can see these diagrams are a little bit like John's CT scan as well. Always call an ambulance if someone has any of the signs of stroke or things feel weird. Even if you aren't sure or the signs disappear, go by ambulance. Always. Don't wait in an ED triage waiting room. In an ambulance, the urgency of your needs will be recognized and hopefully you will feel cared for. Don't say it's fine and go and lie down. Don't ignore unusual feelings. And males, please don't do it tough. The end result could be far more devastating than you think if you don't act fast. It's not just about you. Stroke affects an entire family. We had the alerts. Blood pressure was too high. Cholesterol, the LDL, which is the only one you really need to function on, was too high. Weight, too high. Was he prepared to change any of it? No. His lifestyle was far too good. Food, he loved it. Wine, lots of it. Chocolate, the love of Lindt chocolate. Exercise, some when I felt like it, although he did play tennis weekly. Our lives took a catastrophic event, and with a lot of hard work, we turned it into our stroke of genius. Today, we want to address stroke in terms of stages: survivor, thriver, champion. Not just one, the survivor. Let's start with survivor, not just one, two, he and me. Our world turned upside down on that 25th of February 2021. We knew nothing about stroke. It was terrifying. We had started a new business in 2020, aged 79 and 73. Our business had been the two of us. John had a stroke. I was now his full-time carer. Goodbye business, goodbye income, goodbye the life we knew. Our lives vanished. We had to start all over again. This is an amazing book by Jill Bolte Taylor, neuroanatomist at Harvard. At age 38, she had an AVM hemorrhagic stroke. It took her 8 years to recover, and now she's one of the best TED Talks around. We learned lots from Jill, and the main point, John's left-sided stroke, resulted in the itty-bitty shitty committee going on pause. There's a show in England called Grumpy Old Men. You know Mr. Grumpy. Well, John had been a little bit like that prior to the stroke. Lucky us, he had taken a break. Mr. Gorgeous, Mr. Smiley arrived. Yay, what an unexpected blessing that was for us. When we left hospital after a 2-month stay with very little speech, we learned a whole host of challenges were in front of us with communication loss. Next, determination to continue therapy as much as possible wherever we could get it, and so the hunt began. Aphasia is a loss of words, not intelligence. What is aphasia? No one seems to know. But I've got this amazing little video that I want to share with you. It's only 3 minutes, but it's a very valuable little video. And I hope I can get it to work for you.
I've always loved hearing stories. My grandpa told them best. He'd tell me of pirate adventures in
maybe a little more volume.
But then something weird happened, out of the blue one day. He couldn't tell me stories because his words had gone away. They told me he had aphasia. It's a funny word, but not a choke. My grandpa got aphasia because of something called a stroke. You see, blood flows through little vessels like water through a drain. But if that blood flow stops, you can get damage to your brain. I can show you what it looks like. Here, Grandpa's scan is on the right. You can see the difference. His brain is dark at the damaged site. So we know about a stroke and how areas of the brain can die. Now listen to Grandpa. He makes mistakes no matter how hard he tries.
No, can't say. sword, crag, no. Elephant, pecan. No, it is too. I know that one, that's easy. Cart. Yeah, no, I can't say it.
Because it's so hard for him to name people, objects and birds, I set off on a treasure hunt to find what happened to his words. I imagine I was a pirate and the captain of a great big boat, searching for what had become of the stories I loved most. To find out what was wrong with Grandpa's words and make him proud, I had to understand how we get from just a thought to speaking out loud. Luckily I had a map to follow, and I could learn things along the way. So what happens from thought to talk? Something we all do every day. When we see a picture of a parrot and look at it with our eyes, this activates the brain at the back of the head. Now that's a surprise. From there we process features like its beak and brightly feathered rear. All this information becomes active at about the level of your left ear. Nearby in the brain we find parrot and the sounds that make the word. Then that passes to another section and we can finally name the bird. So I've learnt that just to say one word, in the brain there's many stages, and for Grandpa one stage is broken, like a book that's missing pages. For now the hunt is over, and although my journey has been long, I've learnt about stroke, aphasia, and the things that can go wrong. The treasure that I have found isn't diamonds, pearls or gold. It's the story of Grandpa's aphasia, and I'll make sure that it gets told.
Moving on. So, aphasia. That was my commitment too. I'd make sure that the word got told. Aphasia research. We were lucky enough to find the Queensland Aphasia Research Centre. Comprehensive high-dose aphasia therapy. Wow, a game changer. And hope came and our lives transformed. Our DIY search turned up chat 3, early days of the research participation, and we found home. Everybody knew the word aphasia and what it was all about. Thrivers move on to a meaningful life, and our aphasia super team, thank you. They all knew about this amazing word. With love and understanding, we learned how to tackle this challenge and begin our communication journey. We learned we were not alone, and we met others with aphasia. What was it like? I asked Johnny. It was wonderful. Chat was the springboard for moving on. We were discovering our new ID. We were a new work in progress, trying to find our way. And those 8 weeks of intensive therapy in chat were our transformation. They built us back into a life worth living. And it was the start of our stroke of genius, our purpose. Some people just make you feel better when you're around them. They're sunshine to your soul and medicine to your mind. And that was our aphasia team. PTG versus PTSD, post-traumatic growth. We turned everything into a chance to understand and grow with the experience. We found purpose through this catastrophe. And this is a gorgeous little page from a book called The Mole, the Boy and the Horse. Sometimes I feel I haven't done much, said the boy. You've got up and carried on, said the horse, which is brave and magnificent. Survival and recovery from stroke can be amazing. Home sweet home, wonderful, we've made it. And now the start of the next chapter. Find help, find therapy, find our way. Surprise, surprise, it's tough at home. It's not until you get home that you realize the impact of stroke and aphasia. No language, that was our challenge. No understanding, little comprehension, no conversation, no chatter, supervising everything. We had an adult toddler around the house. Was he safe? No idea. Could he be left alone? Absolutely no. This is where we started. We started with little pictures, trying to plan his day so that he knew what he was going to be doing during the daytime. That was in April 2021, 5 years ago, and this is where he is today. Very, very different. Daily plan, he can read, he can color in, he can do all sorts of things, and he knows what he's intending to do for the day, which has made his life so much better. The mobile phone. We all know how to use one. Well, when someone has a stroke, things change dramatically. This was a piece, the only precious memory of his voice was his pre-stroke voicemail message. That's all I heard about his voice. I used to listen to this message just to hear it. Make space for new needs, we had to. No sensory touch in his fingertips. Limited mobility in his right hand. Remember, no facts. He couldn't remember the idea, had no idea what a mobile was for, what it did, how it worked, and perhaps when he learned how to speak to me on being able to use it, relearning it all. We had to adjust the contact screen so he could touch just one contact and get it first time, and plenty of space in between for his fingers. In adjusting his phone, the Telstra support had to reset the phone, and you guessed it, it wiped out his old phone message. The last remnant of his voice, gone. Tears and more tears. I can still feel that moment of despair, having lost the sound of his voice. Everything took time. Sometimes we took 30 minutes to find one word. He couldn't speak, but we would guess, write, bring out whatever objects, drawings, anything to cue and clue. Google wasn't any good. I had no tech, and he couldn't read or write. What a pair. When we couldn't get it fast enough, he used to give me a shrug, meaning, don't bother, it doesn't matter. But it did. Don't bother, it doesn't matter. To me, it mattered a lot. I had to give him the dignity and understanding. He was still him. It mattered what he thought and what he wanted to say. Brain injury, aphasia, associated cognitive impairments. Secondary effects were social isolation, low mood, and our therapeutic goal was definitely quality of life. Think, how can I treat this person the way I would wish to be treated? If I was here in this bed faced by these challenges, yes, you are part of a major reconstruction of this person's ongoing identity. Reflect. We know you're busy, but remember the very precious and fragile cognitive condition you have in your hands. Treat us with the greatest kindness and understanding you can afford. You will make a difference in how we see our new identity forming. And respect. We as stroke survivors go through identity crises and rediscovery. Treatment by others may have major consequences, so count to 10. Put yourselves in our shoes, or imagine this could be your loved one. Stats say it's 1 in 4. Think on that. Then more DIY, and along came Etty, and we found answers. She has a brain rehab academy here in Melbourne in Australia, and she actually looks at your MRIs and CT scans from the point of view of function and rehab. She's a physio. This is what we learned, John's lesion positioning, its effect on function, and she gave us hope and reassurance, and we got answers and direction. His speech could come back, but we had to work very hard to get that, and his sensory could come back, and she referred us to other people to do that. We got his recovery moving, more focused rehab, more progress faster. This was the missing piece for us. In terms of what John had, ideational apraxia being the result of an injury to this area, the parietal, he could get the movement. He didn't know which movement to get. This area of movement, understanding concepts of movement, what you're supposed to do with objects, is the area that's problematic. How to treat something like that? It's about teaching them what objects are and showing them how to use it. Once they practice a couple of times, they know how to use it. So the problem is not in actually executing the movement. The problem is in understanding the meaning. For example, the urine bottle in the hospital was very important, and he had no idea what to do with that. This is a bottle. I need to hold it in a particular way. Train the movement according to what function we need to do. And that relies on which function we need to do. We had sensory loss. John had right-sided neglect and inattention from his stroke. He often doesn't know he has a right arm and hand. So we did this right-handed watch therapy. We put a watch on his right arm, and when I phoned, we got no answer. It was a huge safety risk in not being able to contact him. He couldn't feel the watch ringing. He couldn't feel the vibration. He had sensory loss. Another DIY, Sense. We found Sense therapy, and they came to our rescue. Also obtained a grant to train occupational therapists in Brisbane, and that's part of the advocacy work we've been doing, who could then train others. We had Professor Leanne Carey at the time, since retired, but she was absolutely wonderful and the founder of this whole sense therapy. Brains are spectacular. We luckily had no dementia, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Brains keep growing if you work them, and with repetition, connections growing stronger, neurons were rebuilding and reconnecting. All we had to do was repeat, 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 and we recovered. We did, we have, and 5 years later, we still are. The next DIY was Stage 3 Champions. This book, The Woman Who Changed Her Brain, Barbara Arrowsmith-Young. Find the way you want to go. Do the things you need to do, and repeat, repeat, repeat. Neuroplasticity became our new bestie. Clocks, that's what we called the program. Cognitive training daily. For 5 years, John has been doing this. And here's Barbara. She came to visit us for an evening of gratitude. Never give up. Find a way. Another book that changed our lives. John had no numbers, no alphabet, no knowledge of meaning. Can you imagine having no sense of time, weeks, seasons, no idea of the words morning or afternoon, just the meals which determined these phases of the day? Our first neuroplastic cognitive adventure was online with the clocks and Arrowsmith program. On the computer with his keypad from no numbers, started with just the hours 1 to 12. And he did clocks 45 minutes every day, 25 clocks per set. With sensory loss in his fingertips, his challenged right hand working on a keypad, punching in the numbers, thousands of keypad strokes later, in 5 weeks, he got the hours. Another 5 weeks, he got seconds. And then we worked with 2 hands and he got time. John has done over 120,000 clocks since October 2021. Neuroplasticity at work? Repetition. He was disciplined. He loved it. He was playing a game against himself every day. He saw progress over time. His internal clock is now in place, not just numbers. He resurrected many executive functions in his brain. And this is him having a personal best. He had PBs galore and very well worth the deserving PB screen. Staying the same was not an option. We had to find a way. We were like 2 bullocks driving this team to success and recovery. We never stopped. We still haven't stopped. We pushed through. We said yes to everything. We became detectives, found resources, support, treatment, courses, read up as much as we could and did it. We learned very early in the piece, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Recovery takes time. Here's a story. My water baby. Swam all his life, played water polo, had a boating business, sailed yachts, imported big boats from the UK, fished the top end, that's what we call the top end in Australia, with big barramundi. Those are big fish. You'd think he'd know water? Well, listen up. We're on that beach. 18 months after our stroke, walking along the sand. First beach day out, perfect weather, perfect day. And we're walking along the sand and he's holding onto my arm with white knuckles. And I say, what's all this going on? What's this about? And he points to the ocean and says, I don't know if it will hurt me. Oh, that was an absolute mind-blowing moment for me. I realized what loss. I had no idea, and I assumed he knew everything still. So perhaps a goal, Christmas 2022 in the creeks and rivers with your grandsons. What about that? And he gave me the thumbs up. So we went to find a personal flotation device. Everyone needs a PFD. We went to the shops and we tried them on. He had no idea what it was for. He was just trusting me. And we tried these on and we got 2 of them because in the St. John's ambulance idea, you wear 2. You don't want to have 2 catastrophes instead of 1. And I didn't want him clawing over the top of me when we were in the water and drowning me on the way. So we both got one. We went to the beaches. We tried these on. We went down the beach and everything was overstimulating at the time. It was a case of walking through all these processes very slowly, trying to find ways to do things. We walked out first in the first week and it was all too much. There was too much to take in. And then the next week we went out again to about waist deep and then to chest deep. And I said to him, can you take your feet off the ground? Well, he took his feet off the ground and this was the result. He suddenly found that this contraption, this PFT that he was wearing was a flotation vest, and he has never stopped enjoying the water again since. His new buddy, and this is the reward, and this is both of us with our vests on. So where to next? I think most of you will recognize this as virtual reality equipment. Virtual reality, VR. He played tennis all his life, and that was something that he had lost the capability of doing. So anyone for tennis? We had been introduced in a research program for aphasia to virtual reality just to go into a coffee shop and order a coffee or order lunch or order those kind of things. But no one had thought about the sports side or told us anything. So 5 years we waited for someone in a clinic to suddenly suggest virtual reality for tennis. They had got the equipment and there we were. We played with match point. And this is John, not him playing, but this is the actual screen he uses. And the immersion brought him into being able to play just like this in the clinic. And he moved with such fluidity, and his right arm that he hardly ever uses and forgets all about just did its thing. Forehands, backhands. He moved his feet like he was playing tennis. It was absolutely incredible to watch. And we were so amazed that he now does this on a regular weekly basis at the clinic, and we're thinking of investing in this for ourselves at home to give him more opportunity. Appreciation for the caregiver. In caregiver groups, the common theme is appreciation for the caregiven. It doesn't seem to be there, especially when you're living with someone without words. So I devised sentences that I would want to hear from my survivor in support of the relentless 24/7 care that's required. I typed it up and read them to him and asked if there was anything there that he couldn't say to me. And once that was agreed to, we laminated it, cut them up into strips, and then with a bulldog clip, they remain on the table every day. And he goes to them, supports me, validates me by sorting through them, finding one that he wants to say to me, finds me and proudly says the sentence, and we have a hug. I have made them very personal for us. That was important. I wanted him to think about me. And also he wasn't very smiley. So I put a smile there to remind him to smile. And these are all the gifts he gives me on a daily basis, and the energy around us is uplifted. I would love speech pathologists and therapists to think this way, to help to improve relationships and add love, warmth, and value to treatment and communication. Such an easy, simple thing to think about. Let's do it. Advocacy, passionate, independent, fiercely loyal to the cause, cross-pollinating across the world, saying what we need to say when we need to say it. Our story is a unique story, as everyone else's is. No stroke is the same. The lived experience, so valuable. Bringing awareness of aphasia and stroke is what we do today. We hope some of what we say today sticks. One day you may need to be inspired by this story, and let's hope it's made a difference to you. So awareness, lots of it, promoting the chat program. Quality of life, what affects him affects me. Am I interested in helping him recover? You better believe it. Chief cook, beef cheeks, John Noble style, back in the kitchen. We can go to festivals and things like that. This was a wonderful one of Van Gogh, and it was an immersion experience. Claude Monet, one of the things, said, "Everyone discusses my art and pretends to understand as if it were necessary to understand, when it is simply necessary to love." I think I might have jumped one. I won't be back. And then there's more QOL, quality of life. We found sailability, which is sailing for the disabled. We suddenly moved into the disabled realm so that we could actually have access to all sorts of other things. And the people in there were absolutely fabulous. This is his first barbecue after the hospital. Dinner times and lunches and things we keep to very small numbers so that he feels included and that he can be a part of the conversations. And that was his first number chart. We used children's books and started with numbers before we found the Arrowsmith program. And this is just some other lovely things of quality of life. Friends, road trips, staying with mates. And yes, he does the treadmill every day. And here's us in the creeks and rivers having a wonderful time with having the vests gave us all that opportunity to do so much more. And other lovely things that we do today. We just find special times that we can go out and enjoy what life's all about and have that second chance. Thank you for listening, and maybe you have questions.
Thank you, Bridget. I don't, if you don't have a tear in your eye after listening to that story, at least a little tearing, just the sheer love that you've shown, John. I mean, the comments, if you should take a look, be sure you take a look at the chat and what people are saying about how amazing you are. I've heard bits and pieces of your story throughout our conversations over the last year or two, but never comprehensive like this. And even when I got your slides for the event, I didn't really realize how it all fit together. And so for me, hearing that story, if I couldn't, I don't know how I could respect you more before, but I absolutely do, because your attention to the detail of every stage of his recovery, this part, it comes out so clear in that conversation. So each phase, you're trying to figure out what's the right thing, what do I do, how do I keep growing, how do I move forward from where I am today, and really not just looking at the mechanics of it, but the emotional side of it, that combination is what makes your story and your approach so unique and so different. So thank you for inspiring everybody with that takeaway and that approach, because I think people will now try to replicate that. I want to kind of move this now to some questions. I see some questions coming in. Please do put your questions to the Q&A over in the Q&A box in the bottom. And let's see. Goodness, quite a few here. I'm not sure where to start, but um, so there's a question about the Barbara Arrowsmith program and a little bit more of that. So how do they find Barbara Arrowsmith, and what do you feel like the impact was you got out of that, just from a high level standpoint?
Well, Barbara Arrowsmith, we had the opportunity to literally find someone local here, 5 minutes away from we lived, who'd actually gone to Barbara's summer schools in Toronto because they had a daughter who had ADHD or autism spectrum issues and was told she wouldn't amount to anything. And this lass took her daughter and herself over to the summer school and then obviously came back with the license, and we found her very close to us here. Then it was a case of doing and being involved with the Arrowsmith program online, which was absolutely amazing. And I think we were the first brain injury sort of person that this particular company, Empowering Lives, have been working with. And it's been just an amazing transformation. And it's just, as we say, the foundation of everything that's happened over the last 5 years. We believe that that constant repetition has been changing so many executive functions. It's not just numbers, it was management, decision making, all sorts of things that he had to do while he was doing those clocks, as we called them very affectionately.
Yeah, and I would encourage those of you who want to learn more about that. Her TED Talk, she has a TED Talk, the same title as her book, which is the woman who changed her brain. I believe that was the title of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay? Thanks, Bridget. Yeah, go to TED Talks and watch her TED Talk, and she walks through the process of how she addressed her severe developmental delays, where she healed herself. She developed that program to heal herself, and then has now rolled that out for people across the globe. I mean, she's in so many different countries now, and her program is online. And she's recently, I say recently, maybe in the last 5 years, or maybe I think she's had a heavy push in the last 5 years for adults. And so it's beyond stroke and aphasia. There are for cognitive issues of a lot of different types. So I do agree you should go take a look at that for so many different things. You talked a little bit about Eddie as well, and how that sort of gave you a plan. And had you not gotten in hospital, Bridget, where his challenges were at all, like neurologically, and not been given any hope on that he might recover?
Yeah, it was very odd, not being able to receive any kind of direction. So we really had to, like that book, Stronger After Stroke, was literally my roadmap to recovery. And I think it's an essential reading for anybody, anywhere. Any family should have it on their bookshelf. It was very conversational, covered absolutely everything you could possibly imagine. We were in a traumatic state during that period of time because obviously we knew nothing about anything. So for us to actually come out of that and find Etty ultimately was an amazing plus. It was definitely the missing piece of the puzzle because she actually gave us reassurance that John's speech centers were pretty much intact, but there was this, injury in between, which we had to obviously do the rewiring to find new ways of connecting with those speech areas. And that's what I believe the foundation of the Arrowsmith neuroplasticity and John's repetition and definite discipline that he had was extraordinary. For him to do such intensive work every day and still love it was amazing. And that's what it's all about, is repetition.
Yeah, not to get tired of it, right? Because you do have to stay engaged. And that mental, emotional, positive feedback of showing those small wins every day keeps you
Yeah.
wanting to engage.
Yes.
Bridget, I've got a couple questions here about the number one therapy for aphasia that worked best. I think I know the answer, but I'll let you say it.
Well, the number one obviously was, well, I don't know what you're wanting me to say
I
here,
want you to say
but
that what you think it is. I just think I
chat.
might know what you're going
Well,
to say.
obviously the chat program at the beginning, but it's really repetition. It's really trying to engage and give your loved one the opportunity to speak. It was very hard for us because we had been in business all our lives, so we just spoke about business. And when business had gone, we didn't have a lot of conversation. And it was
Mhm.
very challenging when John couldn't get the meaning of things. Now he's a reader. One day he suddenly said to me, I can read. And that was like, oh my God, you can read. He couldn't read out loud, but he could read and understand. And that was just another gobsmacking moment. We call it gobsmacking in Australia, I'm sorry. But it's just it was just another revelation that was just fabulous. And what we do is every single little gem of progress we celebrate. It's amazing. Even the small, really small stuff. If we get a word, we celebrate.
Okay, yeah. We heard that message with Stacy Barber and Logan this morning too. Celebrate the little wins, and that's what keeps you motivated and helps you stave off the depression that can come with some sort of a challenge like this. So Susan has a question on here about how did you find the right people to help? Because I think as we go through this, and I've been through this challenge well, it's like, where do I start? How do I find somebody who can help me? And for me, the answer to that question is just get started, right? You start and you find the path. But for you, you've talked about Stronger After Stroke, right? That book.
Yeah.
And for me, it was Norman Doidge's book. So just that wealth of information. But do you have anything else to add to that question?
Yes, I think you've got to continue to educate yourself, as hard as it might be for some people. I think it's very important to stay open. We've now got neurophysios, neuro exercise physiologists, neuro speeches, and that's taken us 5 years to find them in a sense. So that neuro aspect is missing from most comprehensive, and what do they call it? Contemporary style of therapy. You can't, it's very hard to find people who are versed in neuroplasticity. It's coming, but it's been a slow journey to find them. And now we've got them. The acceleration of John's recovery is going to be far more progress is going to be made because people understand the combination of neuro and the physical and the emotional, obviously. So yeah, it's a journey, and the journey is what's really the treasure of it all. That's what we cherish is the learning experience on the way and to be incredibly patient.
I want to take just a few minutes and we're going to put out a poll on our session, if you will. Please take just a minute and answer that. And as you do that, we've got time for one or two more questions here. Bridget, I have a question on your brain, right? So we've talked a lot about John's brain. And throughout this entire process, it's got to be you've had to have rewired your own brain and had some changes there along the way. What would you say is the biggest change for you and your cognition after going through this process with John?
Well, I've certainly become a very informed person on stroke and aphasia, obviously, in particular. I've learned how to communicate in many different ways, not just speech. There's gestures, there's writing, there's stories, there's pictures, there's getting books, there's pointing, there's so many different things, there's body language. There is so much outside of that. I would say that the information that I have now has become huge in my brain, and possibly daily events have disappeared. So even though I might have increased all those, my short-term memory is probably not as good as it used to be. But the fact is, I'm becoming very, very versed in this, which is my passion, obviously now, because I've seen the changes in someone was 79, who's now 85 this year. I'm 78, and don't give up on older people, because it's just amazing what you can do. And that, I think, is stimulating my brain to stay current. And because I'm involved with younger people a lot in all the work that we do together, that also maintains my brain in a much more alert fashion because I'm dealing with younger people. I do find today's speed of language so challenging, because when you deal with someone with aphasia, you have to slow down hugely in your speech. And today's speech, I can't go to movies and things because I can't keep up with the words. It's crazy. I just lost it from that point of view.
Okay. Somebody was asking about the quest, the video of the boy on the quest. Where is that? They wanted to get access to that.
I can probably give you, it's called the treasure hunt, and you have to look for that little map, if you can remember the little map. But it's on YouTube, and I can obviously give that to you later if you like. I have no idea how to do the technical. I can't type it into chat at the moment. I can't do any of those things. I'm flat out doing what I'm doing at the moment. So please just bear with me. We'll get that to you so that they can get to your website or email you or do something so that you can find the treasure. It is a invaluable. It was put up as a. This is 2011. It was made, and it was put to a neurophysio, some kind of conference in Washington, and it won an award for that. So, it's a very, very important little 3 minutes to explain everything, and particularly for children. If you've got children and the parent has had a stroke or the grandparent has had a stroke, it's a wonderful way of helping children understand what is going on there.
Okay, good. I think Izzy has typed that into the chat, so you can grab it there. Okay, one last question here, and let's see. Okay, I'm just going to read the whole entire thing. It says, Bridget, your love for your husband is inspiring. Do you ever feel guilty when you do things to keep yourself strong and healthy, as I have? Everyone says you can't pour from an empty cup, but I still feel guilty. How do you overcome it?
Yes, it's taken me 5 years, or right up until now, so that I feel that he is capable of doing things without a lot of risk. And now I'm actually spending time doing things for me. And I'm trying to get with people who don't talk about stroke and aphasia and start to develop other things that are giving me fulfillment outside of the journey that we have. So yes, no, I don't feel guilty anymore. I've given 5 years, well, I've given 57 years of dedication to a marriage, but the last 5 has been extraordinarily all-consuming. And that has been definitely, the focus has been entirely for John. And now it's a case of I have to realize that we are both very high energy people. We're very lucky in that. And I'm now allowing myself to go and do things for me
Fantastic.
without guilt.
Without guilt. Yeah. Thank you, Bridget. Well, I think we're at a close, and I think you were the perfect person to end our conversation today and end our discussion on stroke, because you really bring those two pieces together, and how to pay attention to the individual, the details, to enable progress moving forward. And I'm looking forward to continuing to see what progress John makes now that he's got the virtual reality component. I think that's going to be a big piece of it. And then tomorrow we have our speaker who's talking about virtual reality's use for pain processing. So that technology in itself has so many applications, which we'll learn more about tomorrow. So I'll say thank you, Bridget, and look forward to continuing to hear about John's progress. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And thank you to putting on Rewiring for Hope. Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.